Welcome to the Gentleman's Tribe Show, where brotherhood meets bold truth and we strip off the masks to speak into real challenges men face in business, in fatherhood, in faith, and in the fire of daily life. This isn't a podcast for surface talk. This is a sacred space for men building something real on the outside and from within. Whether you're leading in the boardroom, showing up at home, or standing at the edge between breaking and becoming, this tribe is for you.
And we're back at the Gentleman's Tribe Show, where we pull off our masks and we speak the truth, where brotherhood meets the truth, where we can walk beside each other and ultimately lift each other up. As always, Brian DeCobo here. I'm your host, co-host, Mr. Ian Miller. How's it going?
Another week. Excited. Keeping it going.
Well, I'll tell you, we've had a fun week. We had a lot of fun. We had a 4th of July event at the block party.
That was pretty wild.
Yep, and we had a chance to connect with a lot of people in the community, and it was really an awesome time. But I tell you what, tell us a little bit about, last week you were telling us you got to go to trial. What's going on with that? Are you going to be here next week? Or
I will be here next week. So the plan was to go up to Tallahassee for a 2+ week medical malpractice trial. Today, after 4 hours of hearings and preparing for it, the judge told us he's medically unable to try the case because of some stuff he has going on. So it's getting moved to November. So the exciting thing is you will see me next week.
You know, it's funny, I don't know why this came to me, but do you remember that article, it was a couple years ago, where a dog got subpoenaed for jury duty? Did you ever hear about that?
I did not hear that one. That's interesting. I didn't know you could subpoena. In Florida, dogs are property, they're viewed as, so I didn't know you could do that.
So the question is would a dog be better for the plaintiff or defense in a medical malpractice case?
Oh, I don't know. I'm at a loss for this one. What would the dog have done when medical malpractice case?
He would have said it's rough. Oh, anyhow, dad jokes. All right, that's pretty lame. I know, Damian is waiting for jokes. We got a great panel here, guys. Today we have a topic that applies to many of us out there. Depending on this type of relationship, it affects 45% of people, and that is divorce. And we have a panel of guys that have walked that journey and ultimately have risen like Phoenix in the ashes and ultimately created a great life moving forward from that. And as I was thinking about this topic, I personally am not divorced, close divorce at times, but hey, that's just marriage, am I right? So anyhow, I was thinking about this and I was actually getting worried because, you know, I had this experience where I was at this 4th of July party with Ian, and he had this big slide sliding down there, and I saw videos of myself, and I looked at the back of my head, I'm like, is my hair thinning out? I'm like, this could be a problem. For guys that don't know me out there, I don't have much going for me. I'm not the tallest guy in the world, you know, but I have a great head of hair, and now I'm a little concerned, so anyhow.
You got other great things going for you, don't worry.
Jeez. Well, anyhow, if anybody's got some good tips out there, call them to see how I can keep my hair. I did order some Rogaine over the weekend. But anyhow, we move on to the next thing. So anyhow, let's, what else is going on in the news nowadays?
Oh, I don't keep up with the news deliberately. I don't want to know.
Well, apparently it's a good day for anybody on the Epstein list. Apparently there is no Epstein list. Did you hear about this?
Interesting. That's the list you were on?
Heck no. Man, we're going to have to edit that part out. Well, apparently there's no list, so there's nothing I got to worry about. But anyhow, I find that's a very interesting development. So there's probably a handful of happy people and a lot of upset people in that regard. But moving on to our topic today, we're talking about divorce. I got a fun stat for you. You want to hear it?
What is it?
All right. I read this the other day. So, unfortunately, 45% of marriages end in divorce. Okay. As you know, we have gay marriage. So out of homosexual men, guess what their divorce rate is?
I imagine it's lower than the regular population.
You would be right. It's
Wow.
25%. And that's
it? That's impressive.
Oh, man. One last fun fact. Guess what it is among lesbian couples?
Oh, I'm not going to go there.
Oh, see, this is fact-based. It's 75%. So,
Seriously?
Yeah.
That high?
I don't know. I feel like there's a lesson there. I don't know.
Read between the lines.
We're kidding. People are people, and I'm sure there's reasons for everything. And, you know, maybe there's a reason those stats shake out. Maybe some people are having a bad day. I don't know. But anyhow, so we're going to do a dive on divorce today. So we're going to get to share in a little bit, but divorce for you. You tell us a little bit about your story.
I've been there. I was married for about 12 years or so. I got divorced in 2020. We started it and it finished in 2021, 11 months. Came out strong. Things are great. One of the best things I I've done in my life, frankly. It was part of my journey and things I had to do to find myself and to figure out what I wanted in life. And I remarried last year, actually.
That's what he did to a wonderful woman. She's a pleasure to be around. Everybody loves her in the tribe.
Very lucky to have her.
Gotcha. Well, I tell you what, when we come back from this commercial break, we are going to have a fun roundtable topic about this topic of divorce. Not just the pain you kind of have to go through in building yourself up, but some of the pragmatic reality. What are some of the fundamental issues that come out of divorce that maybe some of our listeners that may be going through this right now might be able to tap into? So we're going to cut to a commercial break, and we'll see you on the other side. The Law Office of Brian F. DeCobo, PA, is a Florida-based legal firm that partners with individuals, investors, and business owners to help them navigate real estate deals, business transactions, and the sale or acquisition of high-value assets like yachts and aircraft. We offer strategic legal support at every stage, whether you're closing on a property, negotiating a merger, or scaling your company. For growing businesses, we also provide fractional general counsel services, giving you executive-level legal guidance without the cost of a full-time in-house attorney. Through our title and closing division, Esquire Closings, we handle real estate transactions across Florida, delivering a smooth, attorney-led experience from contract to close. We're here to make your big moves feel simple, secure, and smart.
At Miller Trial Law, we're more than just a personal injury law firm. We're your advocates during one of the most difficult times in your life. Whether you've been injured in a car accident, a slip and fall, at work, or due to medical malpractice, we're here to stand by your side. We handle the insurance claims and legal process so you can focus on healing. From coordinating your medical care to fighting for the compensation you deserve, we're with you every step of the way. Because your recovery is personal to us. If you've been injured, contact us at 833-MT-LAW for you.
Join us each week as we dive into the stories, struggles, and awakenings that shape us, side by side with men who refuse to settle, who are willing to feel, to lead, and to rise.
And we're back on the Gentleman's Tribe Show. And speaking of tribe, what are some tribe updates, Ian? What's the status?
We got a lot of things going on. As you pointed out, we just had that block party on Saturday to celebrate the 4th of July. Yesterday, we had the Doral meeting. That was a great showing down in Miami. A bunch of guys showed up. We had a bunch of new faces, actually. And coming out of that meeting was really impressive because there were so many guys at the end that were just thoroughly impressed who had never been to a meeting before. And we just had like almost a takeaway session at the end where it was like, wow, what did I get from this? Why am I doing this? And so many of them are really encouraged and excited to be coming back. In addition to that group, this Friday we have the Central Broward group meeting, and we have Tim here from that chapter. And then next Tuesday we will be starting the Delray chapter, and we have David here from that chapter. He's going to be helping us lead that effort. We're really excited to have him.
Very cool, very cool. And just as a reminder to our audience, you could find our show on True Oldies Florida. And depending on what region you are in, it's going to be on 95.3 FM, 96.9 FM, 95.9 FM, 106.9 FM, 104.3 HD3, 104.7 HD3, 107.4 HD3. And I feel like doing a dance every time I got to read this long.
You got to do like a song with it or a jingle or something.
I know. I feel like I should get up and do a dance. And you know what? That's the secret sauce, because if you haven't seen me dance, oh, that is a treat.
Yeah.
Very good. Anyhow, so now let's bring in our panel. New to the set, because we have two other returning guests, but Mr. David Gunther. Kindly introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about you.
So I'm David Gunther. I've been a Florida resident for quite some time. I have a small real estate brokerage in Delray Beach, Florida. I also have a wellness center attached to it, which is going to be our new meeting area for both the Boca and the Delray Beach chapter. So pretty excited about the energy that these gentlemen will be bringing to my office. How beneficial is that? And stumbled into the Gentleman's Tribe through a blessing from a gentleman that was in the group in Boca and introduced me to everybody, and there's a need for it. So I'm grateful to be a part of it.
Very good. And if I may just ask you, obviously it's a very personal topic today. So I'm going to ask you a personal topic. Tell us a little bit about your story when it comes to divorce, just briefly.
Yeah, so high school sweetheart. Initially, I was with her for 10 years. We had a divorce, and that was very difficult. And then, but to this day, we're friends. Things are good. And then I had remarried, and I was with somebody for quite some time. 2 beautiful children from that, and actually going through the divorce process still. That's been actually since 2016 with the separation, and then 2020 was the filing. So I'm kind of like the dragged out version.
Wow, that's quite the experience. It sounds probably not fully common, so hopefully that gets a chance to wrap up sometime soon for you.
Eventually,
we'll see.
all things will end, good or bad, right?
There you go. We have a return guest, Mr. Tim Davis. Say hello to our audience.
What's up? Hello, everybody. Yeah, Tim Davis here. I'm an actor, director, producer in theater and film. I'm the artistic director of New City Players, which is a nonprofit, which is what I came and talked about last time on the show. And so you don't have to ask, I am also divorced. Married my high school sweetheart. We were married for almost 9 years. Have a child from that. I have a 12-year-old daughter now. Got divorced in 2021. Recently remarried in January. So, yeah.
Well, hey, and for the audience may remember last time you were on, you were acting in The Bodyguard locally.
I was.
And you had quite the haircut for playing the stalker.
It's grown back, thankfully.
Good, so you don't have to worry about another divorce anytime soon, because that was you were knocking on that door, buddy. Anyhow, but it looks way better now.
Appreciate it.
You good-looking son of a gun. I hate you. Anyhow, and next, but not least, Mr. Damiano Caracci.
Hello, everyone. My name is Damiano Caracci. I'm a transplant New Yorker, like everybody else in Brooklyn. I mean, Boca. We're changing the name soon. They don't know that, but we're going to change the name. I own an accounting practice. I joined the Gentleman's Tribe, meeting Ian as one of my first clients that had a problem with the old owner, and we developed a strong relationship. And I'm grateful for all the great people that I've met, except for you, Brian. But other than that, everything is good. I got married in 1993. Just want to get that straight clear. And basically, we got separated 2012, and then we got divorced after that. And I have 3 beautiful children: 28, 27, and going to be 23.
Awesome, 93. I think this is the year that the Rangers won the Stanley Cup, right? Or was that 92?
That was 94, but that's okay.
It's all those middle school years for me run together. So anyhow, but that was
the Panthers won 2 in a row, right?
That's right.
You still haven't beat the Islanders yet. When you get to 4 in a row, wake me up.
I got you. Well, that's going to be a tall task to wake you up. It's already past your bedtime. Anyhow, so Damien and I got to mess with each other. But he's sitting closer today, so I might get popped today. So hopefully, I got to watch it. For those that don't know, Damien, Ano, and I are business partners for Next Phase Executive Team. You want to tell them a little bit about Executive Team to our listeners out there?
It's just the concept of both of us like to help businesses, and it's a great way of using our knowledge and our expertise in whether it's law, whether it's accounting, financing, and everything, the back office of a business, and helping entrepreneurs take their business to the next level. It's very satisfying.
In all seriousness, I love Damiano. He's a very close friend of mine, and the reason I got to scale back my junk talking, because if I do lose this hair, I would be far less attractive than him, because I have no tan. You got to be tan if you got, I got to get the goatee and get really jacked. I got to go with that look, I think.
Good luck. It's not happening.
Anyhow,
if you work out with him enough, you might. I mean, he's crushing it. He's been on a serious losing streak of weight.
Man, there you go. Absolutely, everyone's looking fantastic. So keep it up, big guy. We believe in you, and I just give you a hard time because you don't look your age. That's why I joke with you.
Listen, I love you.
I love
it's
you
jealousy.
too,
It's jealousy.
Soon, but
no, I won't chicken out this next time. For those who don't know, Damien and I go boxing together, but he likes to go boxing at like 6 in the morning, and I need my beauty sleep. Obviously, Damien doesn't care about that, but ultimately, I couldn't make the last time, but we'll show up tomorrow, and then of course I'll have the 2 black eyes and broken nose next week. But anyhow, moving right.
Radio.
There we go. So moving along here. So let's get back to our topic. Talking about divorce today, tough things. For our audience out there might be somebody listening in today, and maybe what's one thing that you wish you knew before going into the relationship that ultimately led to that divorce? Anybody want to chime in on that?
Well, I would say that in some cases, you have to look at your intention why you're getting married. What is the expectation? Do you have expectations of yourself? Do you have expectations of the other person? How are you? Are you subject to change? Are they subject to change? Of course they are. Of course you are. What might that look like? I would just say, just go into it with the purest of intentions to be either the best husband or the best wife, and not to be looking for a great husband or a great wife. And just ask yourself a lot of questions, and ask them a lot of questions, and just make sure that there's compatibility, there's chemistry, there's there's a mutual understanding of what marriage means.
Gotcha. And Tim, I know we were talking back in the green room, and you actually brought up some wonderful points about the idea of relationship and compatibility. I mean, tell me more about that.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the two words there. I think one thing that I didn't understand, and I got married very young, so I didn't understand a lot of things. That may be the first lesson, is figure out who you are a little bit more before you make that vow. But I think I learned that there is a difference between chemistry and compatibility. Chemistry has to do with communication. Does your sense of humor jive? Do you like being together? Do you like having fun together? And a lot of people feel this, right? Especially early in a relationship, you feel like there's a lot of chemistry, and that makes you think, oh, we should keep this going. Compatibility is really about shared values, shared moral belief system, maybe shared, I don't know, political views, shared ideas about the future. Do you want to have a family? Do you not? Are you someone who likes to work late and work on the weekends, or are you a 9-to-5 person? Figuring out some of these things that are really going to determine how you spend your time together or not together before you step into a marriage, I think is really important, because we may be able to get along with people super well, and it seems like, oh, this is a great thing. But if you're not aligned on those handful of things that are essential for you, that's a sign to me that you probably shouldn't enter a lifelong commitment to someone.
And piggybacking on that is, there's actually, I'm not divorced, but look, marriage isn't easy. There's times where things are more difficult than others. And one thing that dawned upon me was the idea of partnership, or even expectations before you enter the marriage. And there was a brother that once said, one of the biggest severance of relationships are unexpressed expectations. What's the expectation you have of the other person? They may not even be aware. And they discuss even the idea of marriage counseling before getting married, where you can iron out these ideas, because it seems very reactionary, marriage. Like, oh, now I'm married, now what? Now you're kind of figuring it out together, whereas maybe more training and even intentionality could be a thing going into that marriage to iron out those differences. And if there's misalignment, maybe that's not the partner for you. So
yeah, and I'll jump on that too. Something that my current wife and I did a few years ago. We read this article in the New York Times that was about people who were creating love contracts.
Okay.
And it's kind of exactly what you're saying. So we created what we call a love contract, and this is very intense. So I'm sorry to go here so soon, but basically it's a 3 or 4 page document where we went through every area of our lives: finances, household, sex and intimacy, parenting, like, because she's getting a stepmom and I have a child. I said finances, now I'm saying it twice. Why, reason for being together, and we have bullet points under each and every one, and we created this together. We took like a whole day a few years ago, created this document together, and we actually go back and reread it every single month, once a month, and it is all those expectations. And some of it is like, I can't believe we put this in writing. But it's not even necessarily like we use it to, like, that's in the you're breaking the contract. It's more the fact that we are speaking those expectations. It changes the nature of how you approach your relationship. So that's something, I know it's very intense, but it's been super helpful for the two of us in creating direction. And we've updated it, we've changed it. When we got married, it changed. When we combined our finances, it changed. And that's a part of it. We sign our name to it.
But that's great, because it's a reminder. It's a return to the origin story of that relationship. Mm-hmm. Sounds like something even great to do even with business partners, quite frankly, and any type of relationship you have where you're committing. Because as an attorney, I also do mergers and acquisitions. I do asset purchase agreements, and everyone walking into that arrangement says, "Oh, this is my buddy for 15 years." Well, yeah, exactly. I'm an attorney, and I see,
handshake
it's always a
agreement.
15-year friendship that ends up leading to some sort of unraveling and problems. And in the relationship context, it actually sounds pretty intentional and maybe a great framework from there. So that's interesting. Well, I tell you, we have a bunch of questions on the table, and we did this last show, and it was a lot of fun. So we're going to start off a little bit earlier, okay? So I tell you what, we're gonna let's start with you, Damiano. You wanna read a question for the panel?
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay, so what are some common emotional struggles men face during divorce, and how can they be supported? So again, what are the emotional struggles men face? Letting your emotions out there, letting yourself go. Men we're taught from a younger age that we have to control our emotions, and I think that's one of the things I did. I try to control my emotions because people say that I have a bad temper. Not that I ever seen it, but how do we?
Yeah, whoever said that, go screw them. Yeah, exactly. Great.
So how do you handle the emotional issues? The emotional issues of getting divorced. I was just we were discussing what was the hardest thing during the divorce. I think the hardest thing in the divorce was the first Christmas. I was by myself. I wasn't there to see my children open up their gifts at midnight because the traditional. If we try to keep the family traditions, they always did that at my ex-wife's uncle's house. So of course I wasn't going to be there, but I missed out on seeing them. Santa Claus coming, seeing them. Midnight open up their gifts. It was a hard day for me. It was a hard night. I was tempted to do things that I've never done before in my life, and thank God I had some friends that were there to talk to, and convinced me, don't be stupid.
Yeah. And I think something you touched upon also was and I think this is a struggle for a lot of men, right? Because we're told to, keep your emotions in check, but keeping emotions in check, a lot of men believe that is keeping it buried, keeping it inside. But that's energy. That's energy that's absorbing you, and you may not realize it, but it's festering. And maybe the idea is finding healthy ways of releasing that energy, and sometimes it's talking it through other.
And by not talking, we're doing the opposite of what Tim said. What he's doing right now with his contract. You're not letting the person know that you're upset. Mm-hmm. They won't know, and then they start thinking about other things, and their mind is going through, oh, it's something worse than what it could actually be, and then it goes from a small problem into it festers into a larger.
That's one of my
issue.
things is we don't sweep things under the rug. We no festering because I've experienced that, and I never want to experience it again. So that's part of the
It just
contract.
builds. It builds and builds, and bad things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also thinking about this is, we all deal with, this word is typically associated with death, all right? But the word grief, here it's you're in a committed relationship, you know who you are, you have this identity, and now all of a sudden you wake up and that's just shattered. Now you're in a place where you're not only grieving it's almost like you're in the wilderness, when we had ancient man and the cavemen, where all of a sudden a lion just came out and ate your significant other, just gone, right? Laying in bed, by yourself where that person is gone. I think we've all experienced breakups in that sense. But the idea of grieving, what are ways that initial shock, that initial grief, Damian opened a little bit, but David, how did you kind of walk through that process a little bit?
Wow, it's you nailed it, and the fact that you talked about how you identify, with yourself. You're a loving husband. You have, the fathership role that you're actively participating with the children in the house, or you're a family person in the eyes of your neighbors and your parents, and you go to work for a reason, and that's your family. And so when that gets disrupted, you have so many questions about who you are. Now I'm not a husband or involved like I am with or have been with my children. I go to work, but why am I going to work now? What is the reason behind it? And then you have to look at yourself, not just the roles that have changed, but you also have to start realizing that you've got to kind of rebirth a little bit almost. There's so many things that are going to change, and you're going to learn so much about yourself. It's not an easy process, but it's it's doable, and it's scary, and it's stressful, and it could be really depressing, and so the importance of understanding who you are and who you're going to be and who you want to be. There's so many things that come to mind when you talk about that.
And then while you're walking that personal journey, there's people that you have to tell. What was that experience like, telling the family that there was a severance?
Yeah, that, the separation, the initial separation, it's, who do you share it with? How fast do you share it? Is this going to be permanent? Then people start to suspect things or look at things and notice things, and little by little, and some people do it differently. Some people, in my case, it was kind of very slow and steady, and it's a need-to-know basis kind of thing. For other people, they just put it right out there on social media even, and just throw it to the world and say, this is what's happening. And I don't know what the best way to handle it. I think it's going to be different for everybody. But, for me, it was a lot of embarrassment, I'll tell you that. Not because I had done any one thing wrong, but it's just my sense of failure was the hardest part for me. I didn't set out to get married and divorced, set out to be married. I was going to be growing old with somebody. I had plans, and my future was outlined. And now it's like, wow, for all the success that I may have had in these different hard areas, now the most important job I have, I failed. And that's like, oof. So it's embarrassing to me. It was a difficult thing just to share for that part of it, And
it seems almost when you're confronted with these hard times and being forced to walk that fire, and has that changed the relationship or association you have even with failure? Because your life went on since that time, and you're able to build other good things. Has that been an evolution as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like it's funny because you wind up being a different person than you ever thought you were going to be. Perhaps in my case, that was it. My priorities had changed. How I looked at things had changed, and in so many ways, it was so beneficial. I was definitely more authentic after the fact, which I learned to be. It wasn't easy. I had to do a lot of work to get to that point, but then I put a bigger priority on being authentic than anything else, and so that'll change everything that you do. Every direction, every yes that you have, and every no that you're going to give. If you're doing it with being authentic, you'll find yourself again.
And when I hear the word authentic, it makes me think of the feelings that you shared before about the feeling of the failure, this and that, and then it evolved. And the word authentic, right? It's really I think with authenticity, you're not really seeking external validation or the opposite thereof. So it's almost going through this journey helped a personal evolution in yourself. So,
absolutely.
So that's interesting. All right, so Ian, you want to flip a question?
Let's do it. All right, let's see what we got here. They wanted the shock and awe value, so let's see.
There you go.
How can men maintain a positive relationship with their children while navigating the complexities of divorce?
Well, that's a light one.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Who wants to take?
I'm going to jump in.
Yeah.
Because I'm the oldest. Doing family
Sage of wisdom over here.
doing family traditions.
Yes.
It's very important. Me and my sons, we get together late January, very early February, once a year, and we make the Italian sausages, all the dry sausages. We make prosciutto, we make a capicola, we make supersada. We do all that stuff, and my daughter comes over. She helps. She helps. She's a supervisor. We need supervision, and it's the family tradition that we get together. I actually do it at my ex-wife's uncle's house, which is another part of getting divorced. But we do it there. We spend the whole day. We start off at 5:30 in the morning. We're there till midnight. We're a union shop, so we get a couple of espresso breaks in between. We have to cook because so we have a nice lunch, a great dinner, but it's just keeping that family bond together. I think it's very important. So traditions help with that.
And Mr. Chimeno, when dealing with kids, Tim, what do you think there?
Yeah, as soon as I started going through the process of separating and divorce, I started going to therapy, which was extremely helpful. And one of the first things my therapist told me was, because that was my main concern, right? It was like, I don't want to ruin my daughter, who was 8 years old at the time, just turned 8. And one of the first things he said to me was, kids are very resilient naturally. They are adaptable. They are looking to the adults and taking their cues from the adults for how to act and how to process this event. So when the adults are at each other, when mom and dad are bad-mouthing each other or using, the worst case scenario of this is using the child as leverage in some way, you are really destroying the emotional health of your child when you do that. So one of the things that my ex and I decided very early on was we are on the same team when it comes to our daughter, and we value each other's role in her life, and we are not going to bring what's going on between us into her life. We are not going to speak poorly of each other to her, regardless of everything that's happened between us. And to be honest, he was 100% right. I mean, there was that initial shock and pain and a few painful memories of telling my daughter and going through that process. But after 6 months, after a year, she had a new normal. And she feels that way now. She's got 2 houses. She's between them 50-50. She now has a stepmom. She's close with both of us. She's integrated into our different communities. We still do some things together, some traditions together, all of us, when that's appropriate. But I think really because we took that advice, and some of that was timing, right? It's like it's different to get divorced in the 90s than today. We have access to so much more information and what divorce has done to children, and so we prioritize the kid.
I forgot where I read it, but I think that there's certain ages where divorce becomes more impactful than others. I'm not sure if anybody has anybody read that where it's basically 5 or under, they seem to do better, and then of course the more awareness that they have.
It gets worse the older they get,
Yeah.
basically. Is
that basically what it is? All right. So if you're thinking about having a divorce, you get a 5-year-old. The time's now. I'm kidding. All right.
You're a real estate attorney or a divorce attorney. Which one?
Well,
change shingles?
Yeah, you know what? I get referral fees, so Anyhow, speaking of which, let's talk a little bit about the pragmatic side of divorce. Okay. There's a whole experience through the court system, things of that nature. What do you think are some common pitfalls where you were going through this process? You said, "Gee, I really wish maybe I did something a little bit differently going into this marriage." Is there anything that you would change, or any thoughts on that?
Not hide my emotions.
Yeah.
Be more honest with myself. Be more truthful. Not let the things fester.
How do we feel about the process of divorce? Did anybody here have a contested divorce, or was it kind of amicable? Did anybody have a more difficult process than others?
I mean, mine was very amicable, so that's why I'm not jumping in. Thankfully, we were on the same page, and we didn't have a lot of assets to, so it was relatively smooth.
Gotcha. Because I think there's some listeners out there who want to know, what could I expect going through a legal process? What would this actually kind of look like if I had to go through the difficult stage as opposed to a not difficult stages? Anybody have?
It can certainly be challenging. I mean, my divorce process took 11 months from the time I filed until we ultimately settled before we had to go to a trial. It gets expensive. There's a lot of emotions. There's a lot of fights over the children and over the house and business stuff and income sources. It really becomes super complicated. But you have to understand, if you're walking this path, you got to go through it. If you're deciding this is what's best for you and what you need to grow and get to where you want to be in life, you have to do it. It does get better. It's a challenge at the beginning because, like you said, the grief, all the processing of the emotions, the failure. But once you get to the other side of that, you'll grow a lot from it. With the struggles you have in life, you grow from them. And if you look at them as challenges that are placed for you to grow from, it'll be over before you know it, and you'll be in a new place.
David, you want to read us a question?
Sure, because I don't want to touch that one.
Yeah, there you go. Let's have you read your question.
So what are some ways that men can prioritize their mental health and well-being during the divorce process? And I flipped this over a few minutes ago and I saw it and I thought, okay, ways that you can prioritize your mental health. I mean, you're going to go through some changes, whether it's an 11-month, a contested divorce or if it was an amicable divorce. I had an amicable divorce initially, the first time, the high school sweetheart. And it was just as painful as what everybody else had dealt with. It was painful as this past one is. It was just my biggest pain of the time. It was my hardest, moment at the time. And the mental health, aspect of it, man, it's we're men, so we go out and we have to face people. We have to be in business. We have to be strong in front of our children, in front of your friends and family and all these things. And then you go home and you're like, wow, man, it's like now you're by yourself. You've got your thoughts that you're not your thoughts, but you have them, and you have so much to learn about yourself. And it's like, your mental health is everything. The body will break down if it's not strong, for sure. And you could find yourself in really dark places. And it sounds like, from what you shared, you've been in dark places. I know I have. So what are some ways that men can, well, first of all, get some support. Make sure that there's people that you can speak to on a regular basis. Yeah. Let people know, and this is not easy, but let them know, I need you to check in on me. If you don't hear from me, just check in on me. Just even if it's just say hello, and then to put yourself around a lot of people that are going to benefit you going forward, that are aligned with your journey and what you're wanting from your life, and be careful of those people that you share with. Does this person agree with everything I say? Does this person help me stay in my miserable moment? Do they not point out the positives? Are they not helping me see what I need to be grateful for? What I should be doing next with a clear mind. Your mental health, there's books that you can read to learn about yourself. And I think that's the primary thing. Learn about yourself. Learn about yourself. You contributed to the situation. You did something. You were part of something. Are you going to have mercy and grace with yourself? There's so many tools that I leaned on, books that I revisit to this day. But all of it, my survival depended on making sure my mental health was in the best shape it could be in, and reinforcement on a regular basis.
And you're touching upon something that, not just with divorce, but anyone going through grief or a hard time, and the feeling of those dark moments. I forgot the exact stat, but I think it was something outrageous, like 40,000 men commit suicide every year, or something to that effect. And that's what makes the tribe so important to me and other people, is that while some may not be in that dark space, but ultimately it keeps men from getting to that dark space, being able to connect, have the community, feeling you're not alone, people you could have authentic and real conversations with, without wearing the mask, always. And that's something that transcends even this topic of divorce. But this is a place where a lot of those things tend to happen.
For me, that was essential, Brian. I mean, having a support system in place, having guys that I could lean on, having guys who've been through that process or are similarly going through that process, to be there, to be the sort of beacon of hope, to say, hey, it's going to get better. Hey, here's kind of like what's going to happen next, or hey, we got you. We understand you. We're here with you. Here's a book you should read to help you understand the framing of relationships and why this one really wasn't right, to help you justify why you're doing it, because the thoughts come to your mind over and over. Is this right? Am I doing the right thing? And having people there for you who aren't there to judge you but are there to support you, that's what got me through it.
Oh, very good. So who hasn't read a question yet? I think Tim hasn't read one yet.
I have not.
All right, let's go for it.
All right, here we go. What role do you think traditional masculine norms play in men's ability to seek help and support during divorce?
Well, I think we just touched upon that a little bit.
Yeah, we did. I think so.
And I think that, everything we just said. Yeah, why don't you read another one?
My other one is, how can men balance the need to be strong for their family while also expressing their own emotional pain during the divorce? It's the first time I'm reading the question, but what initially comes to mind for me is there's a lot of paradoxes in life that contain some kind of essential truth, and I think one of those is that vulnerability is strength, weakness can be strength, meekness is power. And I think, one thing I've tried to instill in my daughter, just as a father, her entire life, is that when I mess up, I'm going to apologize. When I'm upset about something, I'm going to share with you about that and tell you why. So actually being honest about the emotional pain in an age-appropriate way, right? Because you don't want your child to become your dumping ground for your problems, which I know a lot of people who, they are still that for their parents. They are the emotional support for their parents, and oftentimes they've been that since their parent got divorced, and that's a challenging spot to be in. So I think it's just recognizing that there is a lot of strength in honesty and vulnerability, but employing a level of wisdom in knowing what is actually appropriate to share with my child, and when do I just need to be dad and be strong and confident and move things forward, but also showing that side of authenticity and tenderness and nurturing that is in all of us as well.
Mm-hmm. No, very good. It's and I was thinking I was thinking about this mulling over when David was speaking, because I was thinking about, obviously when we hear these stories, we're also thinking about our own journey, what we walked. While I haven't been divorced, I have been heartbroken, absolutely. And what did I do with that deep grief and deep depression? Well, I remember I was in college, high school sweetheart, seems to be a theme, right? We broke up in college, and out of that pain, man, I ended up just working out, getting jacked. I was head of my studies, and I was making sure I was on top of everything, sort of joining all these different organizations. Matter of fact, that's how Ian and I really connected back in college, was being involved in developing organizations.
Well, you said you exercised when you were young. What was that,
Jacked?
1 day, 2 days?
His wife's
His like, I'm going to separate briefly from you,
Man.
Brian, so you can go get jacked again, and then we'll get back
I was
together.
a stud. I was a stud. Well,
Muffin,
anyhow.
some muffin.
Hey, no worries. Okay, you got that one, pal. All right. I got to get my wheels turning up here. Anyhow, but out of that, I transmuted that pain into something else. It was my motivation. Eventually, quite frankly, I got a full scholarship to law school because of the pain of that relationship of grief. Motivated me to get me to where I was going. Not to brag or anything, but that's what happened in my journey. And that's how I actually became an attorney, because the thought of incorporating a lot of debt and an opportunity to have that option, I attribute to my ex. So thank you, ex. And on that note, we're going to take a brief commercial break, and we will be back momentarily. The Law Office of Brian F. DeCobo, PA, is a Florida-based legal firm that partners with individuals, investors, and business owners to help them navigate real estate deals, business transactions, and the sale or acquisition of high-value assets like yachts and aircraft. We offer strategic legal support at every stage, whether you're closing on a property, negotiating a merger, or scaling your company. For growing businesses, we also provide fractional general counsel services, giving you executive-level legal guidance without the cost of a full-time in-house attorney. Through our title and closing division, Esquire Closings, we handle real estate transactions across Florida, delivering a smooth, attorney-led experience from contract to close. We're here to make your big moves feel simple, secure, and smart.
At Miller Trial Law, we're more than just a personal injury law firm. We're your advocates during one of the most difficult times in your life. Whether you've been injured in a car accident, a slip and fall, at work, or due to medical malpractice, we're here to stand by your side. We handle the insurance claims and legal process so you can focus on healing. From coordinating your medical care to fighting for the compensation you deserve, we're with you every step of the way. Because your recovery is personal to us. If you've been injured, contact us at 833-MT-LAW for you.
Join us each week as we dive into the stories, struggles, and awakenings that shape us, side by side with men who refuse to settle, who are willing to feel, to lead, and to rise.
All right, and we're going to jump into one more question. David, we're going to go with you again.
Okay. So how can men navigate co-parenting challenges after divorce while maintaining a healthy relationship with their children? You had mentioned, just being truthful, and I think that's a big thing. Age appropriate as well. let them see that you're struggling. If you're struggling, let them see that you recognize your mistakes that you've made. Let them see that it's not them. Let them see, what's actually going to happen or is happening, and when co-parenting, they have a mother, you want to respect that for sure. You also want to hear them out because they're going to have, their perception and their views on what happened. So I think for me is try to understand and be supportive of their journey because you've navigated it to it changing, you're part of it. And at the same time, it's, the balancing act of sharing what you should share, what you shouldn't share, what's going to be helpful. They have a relationship with the other person still. And that relationship has nothing to do with you. Right. It doesn't, it's, you want that relationship for them to be as good as it can be. As tough as that might be, to bite your tongue or to have a helpful handoff, to show respect when you can. These are great lessons for how you want them to move forward in life. They're watching what we do and they're going to more than likely mimic a lot of that activity. So, just to be a good example, on top of, helping them with their journey, because it's going to be difficult for them. They're dealing with change too.
And when you talk about co-parenting, it also makes me think of the other relationships, because, you have two people that move on, find other romantic partners. And, any thoughts about how that dynamic kind of plays out?
It's certainly specific to each person. I think the larger principles are the co-parenting. I'm really, I'll double down on what I said before, and what you said made me think of that. Is even if your child is telling you something about, oh, mom this or dad that, and you think in your head, just providing a comment on that, I just say, like, don't do it. If there's something that's really an issue, you need to go to your co-parent about it. Don't bring your thoughts and ideas about something going on with your ex with your child, if that makes sense. Because that's just gonna, again, bring them into your own thoughts and feelings about it. And I don't think that's appropriate, especially when they're kids. I think when they get older, I'm sure there becomes more of a, openness and talking about the challenges there. But with a new person, this is where the quality of that new person is so important, right? They need to understand that they are coming into a broken family, for lack of a better term, and there is a mom of this child, and there is a child, and there is, the new romantic partner. And something that surprised me at my wedding back in January, when my wife we exchanged vows and shared vows with each other, and she just, we were joking the entire time how, like, I'm like more of the writer, so my vows were going to be better. She smoked me. It was like, and mine were pretty good, but she smoked me because the end of hers, my daughter was standing up there with me. She turned to my daughter and made a vow to her as well, and said, I know that I'm not just marrying your dad, I'm also, becoming a part of your life. And here's all the things that I vow to you now as a part of this family. And it was like I was sobbing. My daughter was sobbing. Everyone at the wedding was like spiritual. It was so profound. And that's the person that I got to marry. It was like, I'm so grateful that I met someone and hitched my wagon to someone who has such emotional intelligence around my daughter's mom, me, my daughter, her role, her place, and how she can fill those things. So choosing that right new person, they got to get it.
Yeah.
I want to backtrack for the co-parenting. What I thought something was important was the children's events, their birthdays. My daughter's sweet 16. I'm going to talk more about my daughter because she's my daughter. My sons are my sons. But my daughter's sweet 16, her graduation, her to the prom. Also you have all these emotions. You got to remember that it's not about you and your ex. It's about your children. The children come first. Their happiness, their joy. It's their event, not your event. You understand? And I see that a lot with people that we know. that have gotten divorced, they're turning their child's event, whether it's a grandchild being born or whether it's daughter's sweet 16, they're turning that event into themselves. Oh, how come I didn't get the first phone call? Or how come I didn't know this? Or how come she was invited over? Or this can't happen. It's about the children's event when you're co-parenting. It's not about you.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I've had one of the best examples of divorce to look at in a close way. Mother and father were absolutely beautiful in how they co-parented because there's so much respect back and forth. The children knew what their expectations were going to be. If they talk to mom, mom's going to talk to the father's going to listen to the mother's point of view. It was such a great, healthy example, and I have no fear for either one of these children that are in their late teens, mid-teens. And I don't know, I'm losing train of thought here a little bit because it really was a beautiful thing to see done well. When you don't have a partner that you have that ability to do that with. And a lot of it's going to be you, of course, and then a lot of it's going to be them. But if there's that incompatibility in co-parenting, it may not be as bad as the incompatibility of being married. It might be worse, could be better, I don't know. But in the co-parenting part of it, all you could do is your personal best, your side. You contribute what you can. And so the other person, maybe they don't participate in the same way. Everything will work out the way it's going to work out, but all you can do is your part. Is really look at and focus, am I doing the right things? Am I being respectful? Am I sharing what that's going to help them? This is not going to help them. And I'll be honest, I struggle with that a little bit. I really do. Anger, stuff like that kicks in, and it's like my children are adults, so it's a little bit harder. But it doesn't make it any less important.
Right, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, last question here on the panel, and I'll start with you, Ryan. Let's just go around. What would you say is one big takeaway from your experience of divorce that you'd want to share with somebody listening in today that might be walking a similar path?
Years later, after time has passed, I'm grateful for the experience. I'm grateful for the difficulties, the hurdles, and what I've had to learn from it and how I've grown from it. And I think the key is to find someone who you can be the authentic you with. And I think authenticity is key. So as long as you have self-love and authenticity, you're going to attract the right partner and everything will work itself out then. And it's difficult at the beginning because you're going through a lot and there's emotions, but there is a brighter side to it.
Just don't have no regrets in life. Don't be regretful. Oh, I made a mistake. No, you know what? You learn from it. Take that mistake, take that failed opportunity and say, okay, what can I learn? How can I be a better person? How can I enter into a better relationship? So, don't be regretful, be learnful.
I think learning how to take responsibility for your actions, taking responsibility for the ways in which you failed without letting that grief and kind of self-loathing take over is a really challenging thing, but a really worthwhile endeavor for anyone. Because I think all of us, when we fail, we need to know how to take responsibility for that. But we also need to know that life goes on, joy comes in the morning, and we can have grace for ourselves at the same time. And that's a daily struggle and balance. It's where having a support system, having close friends who you can be your authentic self with, not being afraid to go to therapy and seek professional help, I think I'm still in therapy today just because I enjoy it, I find it very beneficial. So those would be my things.
Yeah, I think a takeaway for me is that I have to be okay myself. I have to, I can't align myself with somebody else if I'm not putting my best person in front of them. And, it's like a diamond isn't weighed by, or valued by how heavy it is and how much it can displace. It's when it's cut, when it's been polished, when it's been, it may be half the size, but it's more beautiful and it's more valuable. And it's just, doing the work on myself and maintaining that, and then just realizing that it's going to be okay, and that you're going to be a better version of yourself. Just do the right activities, look for the refinement.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to leave with this one thought. While I've been divorced, I've been through heartache, and I've been through grief. Find a way to take that energy, those negative feelings, transmute it into something beautiful. We'll go inward, work on yourself, build your tribe, move forward one day at a time, one step at a time. It makes all the difference. And that's another episode for the Gentleman's Tribe Show. Thank you to our guests. Thank you, Mr. I. Miller.
Thank you.
Until next
guys.
week.
That concludes today's episode of the Gentleman's Tribe Show. If you found value in this conversation, we invite you to share it with someone in your circle who's walking this path of growth and leadership. Until next time, stand tall, speak truth, and continue becoming the man you were called to be. We'll see you next week.